Hey guys, welcome to part 7, I think, of, well, maybe part 8. I don't know. I think this is part 8 of DS9. And we're gonna start painting. This is the painting episode, or one of several at least. I've got this. I took and wrote down, drew out just some basic bare bones lighting plans that we had discussed in the last video for the Defiant on a piece of napkin here. You really can't see it very well, but it's enough that helps me remember what I was going to do. And then I had a little shopping list of the bulbs I needed for that, because there was a couple I needed to order, a couple of things. But that's what that is. As for a different video though, for this one, we're gonna paint. I got these ready to go. All I need to do is take some liquid latex and mask my little domes where my red indicator lights are gonna be. Need to put that on each one of them, and then besides that, it's ready to go. What I'll do is I'll start by putting some white on the tip here, where it's gonna actually light up some of it, where there's some windows. I'll put some white there to help the light bounce around in there, and then we'll start going over it with layers of black, and then turn the lights on, layer of black, turn the lights on, layer of black, and do that until we get it pretty much light blocked, with some light sanding in between coats, obviously. Then we'll take and we'll put a coat of gray primer on there. Why put gray primer after we've primed it with all that other? Because the paint we're using, it works best on the gray primer coat underneath it. I've already experienced that, and it just really does work the best with that gray underneath. So we will put the gray primer on after we get everything light blocked and ready to go. And then we'll take and sand it again, get ready for the base coat, get a nice finish on it, and then we'll move into the base coat color and get that looking good. And then from there we can move on to working on these details, which are going to be red, and those might be two, but I'm thinking it's really just these panels. It's hard to see. I'm thinking it's just those. I'll look at my references again, but that'll be the color we use on these. We're also, since we're already dipping into paint and working on this, and this thing's ready, we're also going to do this the bottom side of the ring, where these are going to attach. Do the same thing. I thought about taking some white paint like I did on the Habitat ring, where I did this same thing with light blocking the underside on certain spots. Maybe taking some white and going over it, because I did that with the other one to help the light. But I really don't think it's necessary to do that for this. I think it's going to be okay just to let it be just this. I don't think it's going to have a problem getting the light where it needs to go. So we'll take and mask completely this whole inner side of this, all the way out to the tips of these, and we'll make sure that they're masked real good. One thing we need to do is we need to take these indicator pins, locator pins, alignment pins, and we need to get rid of them. One, it's not going to line properly very well. They're not great on this kit already. But two, I got to run wire through here, and there's just barely enough clearance. In fact, there's no clearance once I get these put together. There's not going to really be any clearance for the wires. And the other thing is, which I'm kind of worried about. I've got to have enough room to pass through some wires, as well as there's windows on either side all the way down both sides of this. And there's not a lot of room right there on either side of that like canal section to run wire and light be able to pass through as well. Because I'll only be able to put my LEDs in here. They won't fit there. They won't fit there. And that fits on like the habitat ring fits right there. So I can't put any right there either. I might can stick some in there, but I mean it would be barely doing anything if anything at all, because it would be so shallow. It would be, that habitat ring would pretty much be resting exactly on top of those LED, that LED strip right there. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what we need to do. I think I'm gonna have to put some here regardless, just because there's got to be light that passes through all of this, and it's don't. In order to make it work right, I'm gonna have to have something. I would put SMD shining up both of these paths here, except it would make the windows in these sections a different color than the other windows. They would not match, and I don't like that. I need them all to look the same as far as all of this goes. So it's gonna be kind of difficult. Regardless, these locator pins have got to go. So I'll go ahead and get rid of those, because that needs to happen, but also we need to make sure that this is really well masked, to make sure we don't get any overspray into this. But yeah, we'll get this masked up too, and we will get it painted as well. So the entire bottom lower assembly of the docking ring and pylons is going to be painted in this episode. So we'll see how far we get before we have to cut it off. It's like 9 minutes into the video already, and I'm just now getting through with explaining. So let's get stuff set up, and I'll check back in with you as soon as we get to painting. So see you in a minute. Okay, so I've got the white on there now. This one was, I mean, this one got pretty good coverage. I think it's fine. I didn't get it too thick. I think I got it just right. It's got some spots here and there that I need to sand, where somehow a piece of trash or something got there, or there was just an imperfection on the plastic that I couldn't see until I got paint on it. It is clear, but they're all going to get a little sanding with some double lock steel wool. But I'm gonna I've just got some spots here and there on this one. It's still got the panel line details, so that's good. And that's something I got to be careful when I'm sanding, not to rub those away either, because they're so fine on there, and it gets so many layers of paint. It just very, very hard to keep them visible. There's some weird imperfections, but they repeat. Same exact imperfection repeat all the way around. Weird. And the camera's not even going to pick that up. I'll have to see what I can do about that. I might have to fill it in. These are also done. Now these, interestingly enough, I got some paint on it, and there's spots that obviously, here, let me get the other camera, sorry. Okay, so these, this one looks pretty good for the most part. But then the other two, there's places that obviously need some work done. um, bottom of that one. And this other one, also the top of it, it's got some scratches. Need to be dealt with. And the bottom. I say bottom, that's actually the top because these are the lower bottoms. But regardless, I got a little bit of cleanup to do there now that I got a little paint on it. But it's got the coat of white, so we can move on to light blocking and get it all the black on this. So I'm just going to take and make a mess here because it's still wool. I'll get everywhere. Where it's speckled, it misted down here. That particular white paint that I'm using is some Rust-Oleum. It's the 2X paint and primer stuff. I don't know why. I'll be glad when I finally run out of the stuff. I bought 2 cans of it 2 models ago, and I've yet to run out of the stuff. But I hate to waste it. But I hate that stuff because it leaves a rough texture. It's really bad about leaving a rough texture, and it's just the white one. The black one works just fine. The gray I got one time works just fine. It's for whatever reason just the white version of that 2X paint primer by Rust-Oleum. They're really bad about leaving a rough texture where it left. The paint started drying. The paint particles were drying before it hit the plastic. I don't know what it is, but both cans I got were like that. And when I used to work as a painter, and I'd buy would get some of that stuff, it would do the same thing, but it wasn't so bad on that stuff. But for these models, it just, I don't know if anybody else has had that problem, but it does. Really aggravating. When I did the Reliant, USS Reliant model, that was my base coat, was that stuff, and I regretted that crap. It made doing the all the masking I did for the Aztec, it was awful. I had the worst time with with those things sticking. They just would not stick because of that paint. It just left a rough texture that I sanded, and I mean, I even sanded away and had to put more paint on it a couple times before I finally walked away from it and gave up on trying to get it smooth enough that those masks would stick properly. I just had to fight my way through those masks. It paid off in the end. I loved how it looked. It was really fun doing the Aztecing. It just was not fun dealing with a mask because I couldn't get it to stick because I used this particular paint. Next time, I buy white spray paint for this stuff. I'm not getting that stuff. I'm gonna probably actually buy some testers or something like that. Something that's actually good for models. That dadgum Rust-Oleum is not. I don't particularly care for Rust-Oleum anyways. Especially for models, but that stuff, that white, I don't know what the deal is. Alright, so we're just getting a light thin so it's nice and smooth, and it's got enough smooth texture on it that the other layers of paint will stick. We're also getting rid of this rough texture from what the residual of that white paint does. Okay. Oh, that's something I don't think I showed you guys the last time when we actually installed these docking clamps. I adapted these. See how they're curved and pointed towards the top, and they have much closer to the shape of what the what was actually on the studio model. The kit doesn't come like that. They're squared off on the end of these. In fact, they're all big and squared off, and so I took and I cut and reshaped the bottom sides to look a lot closer to what it's supposed to. So that was something that I didn't mention, but I did do when we installed those in either the last video or the video before. I think it was the video before, because I think the last one was we were figuring out the Defiance lighting. All right. I think that's probably enough. Okay. Brush. Take a brush. Just brush them clean real quick. I don't expect to have a whole lot of problem light blocking these because there's only a light at the top. None of this down here is going to get be lit up. So I don't think there's going to be much light blocking need to happen. And I've already put I've sprayed black on the inside of it already. So these ought to go pretty good. I think the most trouble I'll have is towards the top where these texture sections are. They're gonna be aggravating as heck because the light bulb is gonna be there, and that's where those nice deep etched in fine detailed parts is where the light just loves to cause trouble. And it's right there at the bulb. So you can get away with using Rust-Oleum spray paint for this stuff. I can't suggest using the white. It's just too risky and too much of an aggravation because of this type of thing. Which this really isn't bad. I've started to learn how to use it and to be more careful with it and how I use it since those first couple of models. But I am just about done with this stuff. All right. This ought to go pretty good. What this does do is kind of brings out where it's rubbing those panel lines. It's kind of bringing them out. However, I don't want to rub them away. I don't want to sand those off. So I need to be careful. I'll make sure I get the inside edges. That should be just fine. Okay. Okay. Now I gotta brush this again because I'm seeing where there's still stuff stuck to it. Do a quick visual inspection. Make sure we're not leaving particles of anything on it. Looks like we're good. I really don't want to sand these lines away, and I can already feel where they're almost gone already just by doing that sanding pass. that paint and sanding pass with just that white. Anyways. Alright, so it's time to put some black paint on here. So for these and this, I'm going to start doing layers of black. And just keep doing that until we quit getting light leaks when we shine lights through this. This one's going to be a pain in the butt because you've got this mask underneath it. And which means you got to use a bright light. But this thing's super bright. I usually turn it down to this lowest setting. And I mean, you can see what the dang light's shining through that. That actually looks pretty cool. I'm not even going to lie. But it doesn't even look that way on camera. In person, that looks really cool. Like the perfect warp engine blue. Cool. Yeah, it doesn't come across like that at all for the camera. That's cool. That's interesting. I usually use this, but with the tape there, it really needs a little brighter. But there's a big difference between that medium bright and the lowest setting. So I don't know. This is the best tool I have for checking light leaks because it's really bright, and then I can turn it to the lowest setting and it pretty much mimics the LEDs I'm gonna have in here. And if you can see light through there with, which this is already pretty good, with this, then your LED lights are going to be just fine, more than likely, because this is brighter. Even on the lowest setting, it's quite a bit brighter. Yeah. Yeah, the only issue I'm really going to have is going to be up here, which is where it makes sense. That's where I didn't light block it already, where my stuff is. Okay. So where we nicked our paint away, where there was like a imperfection right there on the plastic, I got rid of it after I painted it. That will cause light leak issues. That one spot, even though you're going to light block all of this, because that one spot doesn't have any paint on it whatsoever, that's going to be aggravating. So I'm going to go ahead and take and put a spot of black paint over that so that it already has a little bit of a light block to it. And then we'll light block the rest of this. I just know from experience, if I leave that, it will cause me issues once I get everything else, because everything else will be light blocked, and then I'll have this one spot, and which is aggravating because you want to even coat. It gets tricky. Anyways, we're gonna do our layers of black and start light blocking this, and I'll check back in with you here in a little bit. Okay, so that's the first coat. I'm not gonna lie, it went on way thicker than what I intended. Don't use Rust-Oleum rattle can paints, man. That's all I can say. Anyways, I'm using it. It was a little thick, but it honestly, light blocking was it's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad. It needs one more coat. If I can somehow get a light coat out of it, that's what it needs. Because there's just particular areas that need it. I might use my airbrush, which it would be way better anyways. It's just it's such a large area. I'd hate to dirty my airbrush just to put black on there when I got that spray paint. But there's that. I need to test these. As thick as it went on, that one coat might be enough for light blocking. And it just needs a very light sand to make a smooth surface for our base coat color. Hook it up. There's a little light right there. Not gonna lie though, it ain't bad. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do the rest of this with the airbrush. Kind of wish I'd used the airbrush for all of it all along, but it is what it is. Yeah, that needs another coat. Not bad though. I mean, for the first layer of paint, because it went on so dang thick. Anyways, I'm not even gonna hook up the others to look at them. They're all gonna be pretty much the same in that respect. I've got one, the very first one I did, I somehow touched it. Kind of put it where I could set it aside to put in the dry box. I didn't even feel it. It must have been such a light touch because I didn't feel it, and honestly I can't even find where I touched it paint wise, but I sure as heck did. I'm gonna have to sand that before I do anything. I've got this one connection here is popped loose, so I'm gonna have to take and get it. I'm gonna do the Solarez thing again. I Solarez all these joints before, and it worked really good. So I'm gonna see if I can Solarez this one because it's still clear on the other side. I'm pretty sure. So I'll get that fixed real quick. But also, there's a spot right there. I'm not sure what happened. It needs to be sanded smooth. Yeah, I'm gonna get the airbrush and some black. Put some flat black in the airbrush, and hit this with that in the problem areas, and we'll see how it looks after that. We'll probably have to do that a couple times at least, since we're using the airbrush. But we'll get that set up, and I'll check back in with you to see how it goes. Okay, guys. So I've got it all light blocked now with the black. I ended up decanting one of that black spray paint so that I could just use the same paint and just put it through my airbrush. I'm not going to go over how to decant paint, spray paint, to get it out of the spray can and into something else to where you can put it, use it with a brush or your airbrush or anything. I'm not going to go over how to do that. There's videos you can look up on YouTube. I have a certain way that I do it, but that's neither here nor there. That's what I did, and it didn't take but a couple layers for each thing, this and each one of the pylons, to just in key areas really. That did it. I did a whole sweep for the entire part. The first pass, and I put that in the dry box for good 20-30 minutes, so that it quit being tacky and everything, and then I put it back in. I got it back out, and then I airbrushed key areas, one pass, and for all 4 of these pieces, and that's all it needed. And it's all light block just like it's supposed to be. So we should not, keywords, we should not have light blocking issues with these parts. I'm pretty satisfied with the fact that the majority of these panel lines that are etched on here that are so fine, they're still visible. I'm pretty happy with that, because that was something that pretty much was destroyed when I did the other part of the model with the habitat ring and all that. It, like, all those panel lines are gone. They're practically like non-existent now. But these, I did a lot better on this one. I'm learning. Decanting that spray paint is the best thing to do. I should have started that way. But there's a couple things that I failed to do. Well, there's really just one thing in particular that I failed to do, that I just completely forgot about and didn't notice well enough to think of it before I light blocked this whole thing. The areas where these 3 sections of the ring go together, like right there, they need to be puttied. and I mean, it's not much. It's just from the edge of that detail down to there. I mean, it's maybe like an inch and an eighth is all that needs to be puttied on all 3 locations. And then maybe the inner edge, if I can catch the light just right. Well, it's not working, but maybe the inner edge right there. That's all that needs to be puttied on it, so it's not going to be bad. So I need to do that real quick. Other than that, they're ready for the gray primer. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take and just put a good, even gray primer layer on it, so that it's set for our base coat. Once it gets that gray primer on there and it dries overnight and cures, and we're ready to put the base coat on there, I'll give it a good light sanding so that we get a good base coat layer. We got good adhesion. We keep the detail quality and everything, like, we keep everything looking nice. But that's the next thing. I'm going to take and hit these with some putty, and then get them finished up, and then I'll come back once we have the gray primer on it. So see you in just a bit. All right, guys. Well, I've got the gray primer on there, and it has dried and cured, and it mostly looks okay, especially the seams. That seam looks great right here. This seam looks fine, except there's a little crack where it keeps flexing, which that's just going to keep happening until everything is put together and on the, like, actually standing up. So I'm just going to let that one be until on that, sorry, Gonna let that one be until we get everything situated. Then we could probably get that one fixed. And then this one right here, it sunk in just a little bit. But again, it's probably not ever gonna really be great until I get everything situated. So we're gonna go ahead and continue with this and do our base coat. But first, it needs a light sanding. So I'm gonna get some of that double aught steel wool and sand over this all three of these pylons and this, and get them nice and clean and ready. Get the surface ready for the base coat. And here's our base coat, which is Pantone Warm Gray 5C. The color does not exist anymore, but you can mix it. For anybody that wants the these color mixes that I'm using, I can send them to you via email, or I can put them in the comment section. I may even put them in the description of video. So, but there, if nothing else, there should be a link in the description to the forum post that has these colors posted to it. And I have cross-referenced, and I will concur that these are the correct colors for the studio model. And I'm doing mine based on the studio model, not so much what you saw on screen. Because if you get your lighting right and you put the right color grade to it, the colors are going to look right regardless, because they're the right colors. So this is the color I'm using for the base coat, Pantone Warm Gray 5C. For the yellow details, we're doing this Pantone Yellow 110C. And for the red details, it's Pantone Red 180C. And I will say, when you mix these colors, I don't know how they come off on camera, they look really funky. Especially the red. It almost gives like a candy pink color to it. It looks much more of a like red clay color on the camera, but in real life it looks like, I mean, it is kind of red clay color, but it also has a very sweet candy looking pink to it. It doesn't look right at all. It does not look like what you would think, but when you get it on the model with the other colors and everything, it, like, you can tell once you got it on there and it's dried that that's the color. Paints just tend to do that. This is one of them that really you'll think is completely wrong until you get it on there, and then it's absolutely right. And the yellow's the same way. It's just not as off-putting of a color to start with as the red. But those are the three colors we're using. So let me get this sanded, and then we'll get to the spray booth and start getting base coat on here. So check back with you in just a minute. Alright guys, base coat's on there now. I got a nice even coat on it. It got 2 coats. First coat was, first pass was pretty light, and by the time I got through with one section of it, it was dry enough I could go ahead and do the second coat, and then I went ahead and laid it on that second coat until it had a nice even finish. And it's still not very thick. However, all of my nice panel lines that I said I was proud of, you really couldn't tell it till after I put more paint on it. But when I just even that light sanding with that double aught steel wool, I just went over it, everything to give it a light painting pass with the sanding. And after the primer coat, and it took a lot of those fine panel lines off of there, a lot more than what I thought it did, especially on the ring. So that's kind of disappointing, but honestly, it's not unexpected, because I had the same thing with the other part of the station I built already. The panel lines just all but disappeared, and that's basically what's happening here. It's just a lot of freaking paint, and it's a lot of those panel lines are so fine already. It wouldn't take much to make that happen. So, but base coat's on there. It's nice and even. I'm happy with it. It's pretty glossy. It's not a high gloss, and it's not really a semi-gloss. But it's gloss. But that's just the finish of that particular paint, and that's another big reason I use that dull coat that I got. So, but that'll come later. For now, we're gonna live with this. It is set and dried and cured overnight and everything, and it's not tacky or anymore or anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and put our secondary colors on for our details. So the pylons get this Pantone red on these details, and I double checked. There is no extra colors here. They're just all colored, base colored. So we'll get these 2 details on either side of all 3 pylons, the red, and then down here, these details on the bottom side of the ring are gonna be this Pantone yellow, and they're smaller, but there's a lot more of them. So we're gonna get all of those details painted on right now, and I'm gonna do a quick sanding pass on it with some steel wool again, and just to even this out and give it a nice finish, because it's got a fresh paint finish on it. It's not got a desirable texture to it. So I'm gonna give it a pass on the sanding, just one really fine sand pass, and then before I do that, I'm gonna take right here, this one seam came apart in the drying oven. The other 2 are holding real good, so I had to re-glue it last night, and it's holding now, but now I've got to fix the where it cracked the paint and everything and is dirty looking. So I'm gonna fix that real quick as well. So when I get these painted on, or I'm gonna sand it and everything, but then I'm gonna sand everything. I'm gonna fix this with some perfect plastic putty, let it dry, start painting these on, or I'll get the red details on the pylons, and then I'll come back, sand it after it's dried, and paint it with this real quick, and put it in the drying oven just enough to get the paint to dry so that we can put a mask on it like temporarily. And then we'll go ahead, because how I'm gonna spray these details, or how I'm gonna paint these details, is I'm gonna use the airbrush. I've got 2 airbrushes and I got 2 colors, so it's like perfect. But also, looking at the reference images of the actual model, the larger detail model that they use for close-ups, these details for both the yellow and the red details, it's very obvious that they did it. They sprayed those, but they also sprayed it directly on, and so you've got this. They didn't do the other angles; it was just a direct on, so you can see all of the shadow lines and the fine detail of it. You didn't lose all of that, even though it's got that color. That's what I was noticing. So I'm going to do the same thing, and if I paint it with a brush, I'm not going to have that same effect. I'll have to do different things to get that effect, which I'll probably have to do to some degree anyways, but it'll be a lot harder. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to spray those, just mist those colors until it looks where I'm happy with it for both these yellow and the red details. Which means I've got to do a lot of fancy masking around these round parts, which is not, it's really not an issue. It's just a little tedious, especially these small ones, which these little tiny small ones I may hit with a brush anyways. They're just tiny. But that's the plan. So I'm going to start sanding, masking, and getting this paint on here. So I'll check back with you in the next update. All right. Well, we got that done, and I think it looks really good. I've already touched up what very little overspray I had. It was really just one, and it was because I accidentally got it on my finger, and I didn't realize it. And when I was pulling the masking tape off of this last one, I got a little bit on the. I smeared it everywhere, not everywhere, but just a couple places. But it's done. And I've got all 3 of them done. The other 2 are in the just sitting in the drying oven box. I'm about to put this one in there. Keep the dust and stuff off of them. And this is done. That seam is gone now. And paint's dry on it, and I'm gonna go ahead and start masking these parts off, and start painting these yellow details with my airbrush. And then once we get all those on, we'll pretty much be done with our paint job for now. We'll be ready for another update. So let me go ahead and get these masked off and spray them real quick, and then I'll be right back. Okay, well, that's done. So now we're gonna peel up all of the masking tape for this. I think it's gonna look really good. I'll have to come back after this is all dried and cured, which is dry, but like I'll have to come back and maybe tomorrow, and clean all of the glue residue from this vinyl masking tape. It's actually getting better. So I guess after I got past a few layers, the tape was better. Get this too. Looking pretty clean. I wish it showed up in the camera better. It looks really good in person. Anyways, let me get the rest of this tape off and then I'll check in with you. I just thought you might like to see it paint the mask come off yourself, because that's the fun part, is to spray some paint on there with some masks and then peel the mask away after the paint's dry. That's always fun. You get to see just how clean and pretty it is, and then get disappointed every time you find some overspray. Because it doesn't matter how careful you are, you're going to get overspray somewhere. And you may not find it until after everything's said and done. There's overspray somewhere. You can bet on it. And my favorite ones so far are those little ones. I keep trying to hold it up to the camera, but it's so high. I'm trying to pay attention to what I'm doing. I think these are my favorite, these little ones. They look like that, but then you peel, you get the mask away from it, and it's so clean looking. And that one, the mask didn't come off all the way like the other two did. Of course, got a camera on it this time. Does it perform under pressure very well? Nicked it a little bit, but that's not too bad. Alright. Starting to look pretty good. Alright, I'll check with you when I finish this. BRB. Okay, everybody. Well, everything's painted up now. As far as those secondary colors, minus the gray. And that's the next thing that needs to happen, which is I need to paint these docking clamps on the tops of all, or on the ends of all three of these pylons, ghost gray. And I'm going to use, this is supposed to match the textures, ghost gray. This is Vallejo light ghost gray. I still think this is too light, and so what I did on where I've put this before on the model is when I weathered it after putting this on it, it made it look good. It made it look like it was supposed to. So it's the right color. It just really looks wrong until you get you weather it. You need to take this and spray the gray on docking clamps, and then from there, everything needs a weathering pass to make it match the rest of the model, like this. Everything looks really nice and blended and has the right texture on this, and it's got the initial weathering pass to it that made it look nice and dirty. Not all of the weathering this will get, but that is the initial weathering pass. And this needs it as well, especially these pylons, because once I get on there, this underside is going to be a hard thing to manipulate and get to once it's glued down. This one's just kind of sitting there right now where it's supposed to go, because I think that's fun. So that's what needs to happen now, is the gray needs to go on, and then weathering. And then after that, what needs to happen is there needs to be a hole drilled, a decent hole drilled in the center of each one of these plates where these fit on for the wires to pass through, as well as our temporary clear stand, the clear stand for the kit, but I'm just going to use it temporarily until I have an actual base. We need to take and drill holes in each one of the mounting pegs on this stand, because each pylon has wires that are going to go down to the stand. So those holes need to be drilled as well. And then once we get all of that done, we can go ahead and attach our pylons to this and start doing our finish work there, putty in and whatever needs to happen, and get the whole bottom side complete and fully together, functional, ready to go. Then we can turn it over and get it mounted and work on getting this thing attached. Actually, no, this can't get attached yet. And there's a simple reason. The top side of these, it butts up right here on the edge where that overhang clamp is, and that acts as a clamp that holds on to the edge of this box, like right there, except it's the top side version. And that is what, so that's gonna not work if this is attached. So this is still, even when we get this done, this is still gonna have to sit and wait on and stand by while we get this thing finished up. I have a feeling we're gonna have to go ahead and do exactly what we just did here and repeat the whole process for the top side before we can even put that guy on there, which is kind of annoying. But I think that's what we're gonna have to do, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. All right, guys, well, that was quick and painless. I've got those gray details are on now, and yeah, that gray, see what I mean about the gray paint? It looks completely wrong. It sticks out like a sore thumb. But once you put the weathering, that first weathering pass on there, it blends the colors and it looks just like it's supposed to. And this is, I mean, Exhibit A, the same exact color, but with the weathering. And if you saw the past video where I touched up all the paint work on this, once I got it sealed up, the same thing happened. The gray details were really bright and stuck out, and then I did the weathering and they looked better. And I even, for a little bit, I think I even dusted them. Just a really thin dusting of the base coat color. Kind of like purposely overspraying them before I weathered it. And that, I mean, I may, if all else fails, I may do the same thing to these. Just dust them a little bit just ever so slightly. But aside from that, that's done. So I think that's gonna do it for this one. I think I got more than enough for a video here. And we'll just check back in with the next one with the weathering. We'll continue with weathering it and getting the holes drilled and everything. Do all we need to do to get it mounted on the stand here. Then we can move on to other stuff. It's getting exciting. So thanks for watching. That's gonna do it for this one, like I said. And everybody have a great one. And as always, happy modeling.